Welcome back, True Seeker. It is Sunday, October 2nd, 2022. And today, the NFL had a game that finished very early because it was played in London. Again, the NFL for a number of years has been having a game in London, sometimes in Mexico. This year, they're going to have one in Munich, Germany for the first time. And anyhow, I want to congratulate the community last night. There were some really good calls on the London game. I saw how it could go in favor of the Vikings, who had a nice tribute to the Queen if they won. And again, Prince, who was from Minnesota. The Minnesota Vikings won the first game in London today. And remember, the Queen just died on the opening day of the NFL season with the Queen City Buffalo beating the defending Super Bowl champion Rams. But anyhow, again, Queen Elizabeth, recall her birthday in 2016 was the day that Prince died. Prince the musician, who was from Minnesota. And Prince is the only Super Bowl halftime musician to ever perform in the rain. Out of all the Super Bowl halftime performances, only one show has ever been in the rain, and it was Prince. And if you know Prince's music, you already know what he was performing. He was performing Purple Rain. And again, purple is the color of royalty, right? Remember, on the crown of the Queen, and it's also on the crown of Charles, is the fleur de lis, the Catholics, the symbol that we associate with the Catholic Church. The Hebrew Israelites will tell you that symbol was stolen, as they just told me on the streets of New York City. But the Queen has the fleur de lis. The Saints have the fleur de lis. The symbol on the Saints helmet, the New Orleans Saints, that's the fleur de lis. And of course, sainthood is a Catholic thing, something that is bestowed on you if you die. And the Catholic Church says you are a great person. But again, you have the Vikings, the color of purple, versus the Saints. You have the recent death of the Queen. And again, you have this historical connection with Prince and the Queen. And Prince is again connected to Minnesota. So you got to say, what are the odds that this is the first game in England after the death of the Queen? Now, again, the Queen, she took over when her father died on February 6th. In the UK, that date's written 6/2. Her coronation was on June 2nd. In the US, that date is written 6/2. In both nations, it's also vice versa, 26 or 2/6, I should say, 6/2, 2/6, 6/2. In Gematria, again, English Gematria, just using the alphabetic order. A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, D is 4, E is 5. If you take the letters of Queen, Q's the 17th letter, U's the 21st, E's the 5th, E's the 5th, N's the 14th. If you add up Queen, it equals 62. And Kirk Cousins came into this game, that's the quarterback of the Vikings who won, with an all-time record of 62-62 and a tie. 62-62. But his regular season win, his next win was 62 in the regular season. And this is a regular season game, so he got his 62nd regular season win today as well. And then what a caller called in with after he heard me talk about the Queen, shout out to Itachi. Itachi made a great point, and so did a caller about the stadium the game was in and how it factored in with the Queen. Here, let me show you this if you're new here. If you're new here, I learned about this knowledge in 2013 reading Manly P. Hall's The Secret Teachings of All Ages. And in that book, he reveals two ciphers, the alphabetic order and the alphabetic order at the rules of numerology. With the alphabetic order, Queen is 62. With numerology, it's 26. Again, she became Queen on February 6th, her coronation on June 2nd. Dates that can be written 6/2-26. When Aretha Franklin, the Queen of Soul, recently died, she died on a 62 date numerology. Again, she died on the anniversary of Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll. A lot of rituals with these numbers. Madonna's had some weird deaths connected to her where we've talked about this number. And if I'm not mistaken, Madonna, she's the queen of pop. She's also got the 62-26 thing. So anyhow, Kirk Cousins comes in with this record that would pay tribute to the Queen. Now, when I first began learning Gematria, after a while, I eventually learned about a website that revealed a few other ciphers for English, and one of them was known as Jewish Gematria. You see how Queen is 320 in Jewish? The name of the stadium that the game was in today. Here, let me get the here, these are our notes. If you're a part of my Patreon sports, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. The name of this stadium in the most simple cipher is 320, right? And again, queen in Jewish gematria is 320. Well, what's amazing, again, this is the nice thing about having shared the knowledge and people have learned it and they've been practicing themselves and they're making their own observations. So as a team, again, there's synergy in people. We've been talking about the importance of teamwork. Yesterday, I started by dishing out what I saw about the Queen theme. I put the notes out at the beginning of the week so the community has time to study. One guy calls and he goes, "Look, the Saints, if they lose, they'll get their 320th franchise loss versus the NFC. This was an all NFC match. Both teams, the Saints and the Vikings, are in the NFC. If you don't follow American football, there's a AFC and an NFC, and that's what the Super Bowl is each year. The winner of the AFC plays the NFC. Once upon a time, there were multiple football leagues, and then they merged. And then the first Super Bowl was in the 47th season of the NFL, which is a whole nother story. But again, the Saints just got their 320th loss. Kirk Cousins came in 62-62 all time, but that's including his playoff wins. In just the regular season, he had 61 wins, advancing to 62. And again, Minnesota, in addition to having the purple connection, and we were just about the Queen and the Saints and the Catholic Church and the fleur-de-lis and the crown, Minnesota is part of the Twin Cities. The other one is St. Paul, another saint. And again, sainthood bestowed after death. The Queen just died. And if you guys missed my work from the beginning of the year, I predicted why she would die at age 96 in light of her history with that number, and why she might die on the 140th day of the year. Instead of dying on the 140th day of the year, she died 140 days after her birthday. And again, in this most simple cipher, Queen of England is 140. And again, she ended up dying on the NFL season opener. And one of the big clues, you guys, was this. It was the Super Bowl. Cincinnati equals 96, like how the Queen died at age 96, 2 days after the new prime minister was put in, who's the third woman in the UK on 9/6, which was the anniversary of Diana being buried. But Cincinnati is known as the Queen City. And Cincinnati has a strong 96 connection. And there's a lot of stuff with the Queen in 96, especially the movie made about her and how many 96s they encoded in it. But again, Super Bowl 56. Notice how in the most pure cipher. Actually, I just noticed something else. God, Cincinnati's 254 in Jewish? That's weird because the Queen's birthday is the day leaving 254 days left in the year. April 21st, the same day Prince died. And remember, Prince had the song I Would Die For You with the number 4 and the letter U. U was the 21st letter, so I Would Die 421. He recorded in 83, 33 years before 2016 when he died on 421. For You, 421. But yeah, that just dawned on me for the first time that Cincinnati's 254 in Jewish and the Queen's born on the day, leaving 254 days left in the year. Her birthday is the reflection of September 11th, because September 11th is the 254th day of the year. And remember, the Queen just died 911 days after the pandemic was declared. And the last book I wrote is about coronavirus, crown virus, and how it's perfectly synced with 9/11. Again, that's the name of my last book, Number Games, 9/11 to Coronavirus, all the parallels between those things. And I've been waiting for the Queen to kick the bucket to finish my latest book because I knew it was going to happen. And my latest book's all about 201. She died 201 days after she got diagnosed with COVID herself. And again, Event 201 was the simulation for coronavirus. And World Trade Centers went from 2 to 0 to 1. So everything I've been talking about, it's just lining up more and more as time goes on. But for all these years, teaching the same thing, the same ciphers, saying outside of the base ciphers, Jewish gematria is the most important. And again, you see just more and more as time goes on how it comes together. But anyhow, Cincinnati was in the Super Bowl, and that Super Bowl was Super Bowl 56. You see how royal family's 56? Do something else real quick. Let me get rid of Jewish for a second. When you run the alphabetic order in reverse with numerology, royal family's 61. The big storyline's the 61-yard field goal that double doinked. But again, Super Bowl 56 was originally scheduled for February 6th, but then the NFL added a game onto the season, so it pushed it to February 13th in the 213 area code, 2/13 and the 213, where the home team LA ends up winning. But Super Bowl 56 was originally scheduled for February 6th, which is the day the Queen's father died at age 56. And again, royal family 56. And now the Queen's funeral recently took place 11 days after her death, September 19th, 56 days before Charles' birthday, who's the new king. And anyhow, with regards to the queen dying, coming back to just the most simple cipher, the queen died on the opening day of the NFL season, right? And in the most simple cipher, England is 57. This year ends with Super Bowl 57. And remember, I was in Buffalo after the top shooting, educating there on the streets. And a lot of people found this very interesting. Almost everyone I talked to had a very positive interaction. And a lot of people hugged and thanked me for coming out there and got to talk to our mom and her little daughters. All sorts of people were appreciative of this information. But I was showing them how these type of rituals go on nationwide and how they sync them up with the sports season and how that shooting, again, for people who forget, Buffalo in the most simple cipher is 63, just like racism is. Both words are the same in both ciphers, as you can see. But this is the Bills' 63rd season. And if you write out Buffalo Bills, it's 117. That shooting at the tops was exactly 117 days before the season opener for the Bills versus the Los Angeles Rams. And remember, the day of the top shooting, there was also another shooting in the news in Los Angeles at Grand Central Market. And then you had the ritual in Los Angeles with the 7-Eleven shootings this year on July 11th, which the majority of the world writes 11/7. And then you also had in New York City the nuclear uh, practice drill alert PSA. And again, this thing going on with Buffalo and Los Angeles. The last time the Bills and the Rams played each other before the season opener this year was exactly 711 days earlier. 711. And Donald Trump, when he misspoke about 9/11 and got made fun of for calling it 7/11, he was actually in Buffalo that day. And remember, Timothy McVeigh's from Buffalo, who was the Oklahoma City bomber, the biggest act of terrorism in the history of the U.S., just before 9/11, and he was put to death by the state 3 months to the day of 9/11. And again, 117 goes with the Oklahoma City bombing, too, because it happened exactly 117 weeks after Bill Clinton took office. And if you write out Central Intelligence Agency, it's 117. It's also 243. If you go back, the Oklahoma City building bombing, it was 117 weeks after Clinton became president. It was also 243 days after his birthday. The numbers on the screen for Central Intelligence Agency. And again, 243 is the number 3 to the 5th power. Oklahoma City's on Interstate 35. Interstate 35 also runs through Dallas, where JFK number 35 was killed. And again, just doing things forwards and backwards, JFK was number 35, the first Catholic president, killed at age 46. Joe Biden becomes number 46, the second Catholic president. 46 weeks after the Pope's birthday was the election. And then the inauguration day was on the Pope's 35th day of his age. 46 books in the Catholic Old Testament. Genesis 3:5 about the eyes of God and being like God. And again, just notice how I has that 35 and 46 as well. The I went on the dollar bill in 35. It's got the mind's eye of humanity, you know. Again, you guys, it's crazy how many people in the truth community they won't budge on things they should talk about because it'll affect their bottom line. It's like, how can you be talking about the Illuminati and all this stuff, and then you're allowing yourself to be controlled by money? It's crazy. But anyway, the other piece of this that I need to talk about. When the queen died, they put out this image all over of her in green. And that's been another big theme we've been talking about all year, all the green symbolism everywhere. And it reminds me that Denny Green, the old coach of the Vikings, he died July 21st, 2016, right after Prince. Remember, what's that group's called? It's like some letters and Dawn PM. I can't think there. There's a singer in that group though named Prince, and he died right after Prince died. There was this around Prince's death. There were a lot of things connected to Minnesota, and again, Denny Green, he dies July 21st, 2016, the day before they open up the new U.S. Bank Stadium, which was brand new at the time, the stadium that hosted Super Bowl 52, and Minnesota has that Gematria 52, and anyhow, I'm just that sparked into mind. If you guys have been missing out on what we've been talking about with green this year, notice how in the most simple cipher, just the most simple cipher, green is 49, right? The movie Soylent Green came out in 1973, 49 years before 2022. And if you've seen the movie, even though it came out in 73, it's set in the year 2022, right? And there's just been overwhelming references to green this year. The Roe versus Wade overturning that came the Roe versus Wade was in 73 as well, January 22nd, 73. So it was overturned 49 years and months later. And the pro-choice protesters were upset and they were all wearing the shirts with the green. And again, green's the heart chakra. And again, you had green skies in South Dakota. Of course, you had the Boston Celtics in the finals. Marjorie Taylor Greene's all over the place. And I mean, that's been building, right? Because it didn't just start this year, but she's just building on this green theme. Uvalde, when they showed the school hallways, they were showing how the hallways were very green, just green everywhere. Again, the heart chakra, trying to appeal to your emotions. All these stories targeted at us with a reason that they're I mean, again, you guys, these screens that we look at, they're aimed at us like weapons. We paid the bill for this thing that's meant to control us for the betterment of the people who control what things are going through those screens. And again, even though it's hard because it's system, right? It's like I'm paying a cable bill right now. I'm doing it to research, to put out information, to try and get us all to turn it off at once. But I mean, there's all sorts of ways we get sucked into it, and until enough people see what's wrong with it, we really do ultimately all need to turn off the screens. But we need to be organized and networked first, because it would be chaos if you just shut them off at this day and age. And that's the concern about the predictive programming stuff out there. What you going to do when the grid goes down? But anyhow, green has just been all over the place this year. And then when the queen died, just and again, I mean, that's two things that we mentioned, right? Why the queen should die this year at 96, and light how the symbolism's all over. We're talking about how it was connected to the NFL season, the Super Bowl. Then she dies on the day of the opener for what will be the season ending in Super Bowl 57. Again, connecting to England. Again, the big tragedy in Buffalo, where Kathy Hochul's from, that it was all synced up with, and she's the 57th governor of New York from Buffalo. And again, we're saying how these people are born for the crown. That's what we're always saying. Like, they're all really royalty. And so often the media will hint how many of these people are bloodline, right? They're in that position because they're bloodline. NBC, after Obama became president, blew my mind with the story they put out there with just how all the presidents were pretty much related, and plus all these famous actors. And I was like, God, talk about the world's a stage. And, Obama 2008. So I'd been looking at it, thinking about it that way without ever seeing the mainstream media do it so clearly from the time Bush won the election. I called him King George II. I was 17 years old in 2000. So 8 years later, NBC's doing a story about how the presidents are related to all this royalty, and all these major famous actors are also part of the same family tree. It's just like, come on, man. You can't see what we're being ruled over. NBC's telling you right now. But again, it's not an accident that they put the queen out in green. And again, it's meant to impact people's hearts. Just like how people were so sad when Diana died, there's a lot of people who have a lot of emotional attachment to the royal family. And all these things, the sports game, all of it, they're all tugging at people's heartstrings. Look at all the people that go home either ecstatic or totally heartbroken. Look at the story out of Indonesia last night. Again, if you missed my video on that, go back and look. I mean, it's all roads are leading to Rome. And yeah, there's even more to say about this, because again, today is 10-2 that they're doing this, right? And when you think about professional athletics, especially in the US, the majority of pro athletes are black men. And you listen to certain people like Noam Chomsky's of the world, they'll explain to you that the reason that black men are dominating the world of athletics is because of the years of slave breeding and essentially making superhumans. And I don't know if that's true or not, or if it just does come down to genetics and better genetics. But again, you have these leagues that are being, run by using black men, and it's mostly much lighter complected ownership. And then right now you have Meghan Markle, who's married to the royal family, who's of a darker complexion, talking about how racist the queen is in the royal family, right? So that's also an element of this. We're talking about Prince, who's, I believe he's a mixed ancestry, but he's definitely of a darker complexion, dead on the queen's birthday. Denny Green, who was a black man. Shout out to, by the way, you guys, number 2, who scored on the 2nd of the month in the year 22. Shout out to Lane. Lane called into the stream yesterday, and this is where Lane's found his niche. Lane's been at it for years now, but he's found his niche in targeting the players that pay the big prop bets. And he called into the community, guys. He said, "What I'm really feeling for the prop bet for the Vikings is Alexander Mattison to score a touchdown." I never heard of this guy before. I struggled to find his name. I was like, "Oh, he spells it with a D, T's instead of a D." But when Lane said, I said, "Yeah, it makes sense, man, because the number 2 on the second, we know how they played the number games." And sure enough, Alexander Madison with a nice prop bet touchdown payout today. So shout out to Lane and everyone who took his advice. But again, the community did a really great job on this London game. And sometimes the communities call him with really bizarre, long-winded decodes, or it's like, "Oh, those seem like stretches." I mean, again, you guys, when things make sense, they make sense. And so often the things that make sense are the way these games transpire week after week. God, I'm noticing that look at what pick he was in the draft. I didn't even notice this one. I don't know if Lane, I don't think Lane mentioned this last night. He was the 102nd pick in the draft, this guy. Wow. And then there's something to say about the Boise State Broncos where he went to college. But okay, I was just saying this about 10-2 because the NFL plays this game. They do these tributes year after year, and other sports leagues do similar things. The word slavery is 102. Again, the American Civil War, which in the history books has everything to do with slavery, the way it's told, April 12th is the 102nd day of the year. And remember, this year in the US, you had the subway shooting in New York City blamed on a black man on the anniversary of the start of the Civil War. Subway, underground. The Civil War brought about the Underground Railroad for the slave trade. Here's the thing about Boise State Broncos 201. 201. And I can only think of 2 other college teams. There's a lot of colleges. Missouri Tigers has a 201, and so does Kentucky Wildcats. There's some Jesuit schools that have some 201s, but just off the top of my head, those are the 3 college universities I can think of that have a 201 connection. And remember the Queen, she just died 201 days after her COVID diagnosis. And again, Event 201 was the coronavirus simulation. And with regards to Corona, it means crown. So, in the books I've been working on and finishing on in the different draft versions and the rewrites, I've been waiting because I just been knowing it's going to be soon for the Queen. It's so obvious this was going on. Remember, you guys, it was Super Bowl 56. We were talking about this before the Super Bowl came around, how the Queen was synced up with it, how COVID would become a part of it. And the next thing you know, Charles was sick, and then he passed it on to the Queen. And then did Charles get sick again or something? I forget what it was, but maybe I'm confusing Joe Biden who got double sick, or maybe it was both of them. But anyway, Super Bowl 56. Again, coronavirus 56, COVID vaccine 56, Maggie Keenan, that was the first person vaccinated in the world for COVID, and that was done in the UK. And then Captain Tom died 56 days later, and he died 201 days after being knighted by the Queen, and he was part of the Burma campaign, and he died 1 day after Burma's military fell to its government. Or excuse me, I said that backwards. Burma's government fell to its military. The military overthrew the government. And again, George Orwell, his first book is about the Burma campaign, and the first number he mentions at the beginning of the book is 56. But just so many rituals with 56. And again, it comes right back to the royal family, which is 56. One other thing, by the way, that I forgot to mention is when you write out London, England in the most simple cipher, it's 131. And today was the Vikings coach's 131st day of his age. And when I first saw that the Vikings won, the first news headline that came up, it showed number 19 on the Vikings. I just want you to see that in the base ciphers, the word Queen is 19. And then we're going to come back to this number 131 with who number 19 is. And number 19 didn't even score a touchdown today. He was the second leading receiver for the Vikings. So I'm sure he had some big plays or maybe some major third down conversions. There's probably a reason they had him up as the guy, in addition to Queen equaling 19. And by the way, we just talked about the Queen in 62 and 26. Again, the other half of the code is just running it in reverse. They're showing number 19 in the Vikings game. And Charles is 73 years old at the time of the Queen's death, right? So let me show you this number 19 on the Vikings. What stood out to me right away when I looked him up. Adam Thielen, number 19, who was pictured for Vikings win the after the double doink. So I noticed his birthday. It's not coming up right now, but his birthday is August 22nd. Well, the thing about August 22nd is that is the day leaving 131 days left in the year, right? 131 days left in the year. 131 days. London, England. Again, the coach of the Vikings. He just happens to be coaching in London on the 131st day of his age. Prince, dead on the Queen's birthday. Prince from Minnesota. Again, the Twin Cities, St. Paul, Minnesota. The Saints, the fleur-de-lis. The Saints, the fleur-de-lis on the Queen and the King's crown. Again, all of this stuff, uh, again, as fixed and ridiculous as sports, and as often as the refs need to come in and change the outcome of the game, as contrived as it all looks, there's reason to think that this isn't all organic. There's so many people who are contending right now that every last thing is organic. Again, a lot of this looks highly manipulated with, again, planned out season schedules. All of this stuff is within the realm of calculation. But anyhow, just think about the odds of it, right? The odds, again, the theory for years has been that these guys are assigned to these teams for these planned major rituals and outcomes. It doesn't have to be every guy on the team, but you have to have some guys there that are there who fit the ritual perfectly. Like Zach Ertz winning the Super Bowl in Minnesota. Again, if you guys weren't here, we said week 3, the Super Bowl will be Patriots and Eagles. And everyone thought I was wrong when Carson Wentz got hurt. Everyone thought I was wrong at first because the Eagles didn't look like the team. But again, it was all foretold in the script, from what Donald Trump did to the protests with the NFL to the numbers. It was all there. And I did give the Eagles a chance to win that Super Bowl. That was one of the harder years to call the Super Bowl. And I did favor the Patriots more because of the 62 thing. Minneapolis also equals 62, like Queen, where they're from. Brady could have become 6-2 in Super Bowls, but we did see, and I did say if the Eagles win this game, Zach Ertz, number 86, will score the winning touchdown 86 days after his birthday, because this season's about the flag and the national anthem, and the national anthem was adopted 86 years earlier. Again, as contrived as it all is in the world of theater on television, the rigged sports, the rigged politics, I don't think that stuff's organic. I don't think that's just the universe working out that way and foretelling the future about how the NFL script's going to be, as the announcer says you couldn't have scripted it any better. I think this is them manipulating the numerical energy that obviously exists within this world, according to these Kabbalistic beliefs and ideas. And, for another familiar theme, Andy Dalton got put in today as the quarterback of the Saints. Jameis Winston was out. And do you know what loss number Dalton got today in London? Again, the number that I've been talking about since day one. Andy Dalton got his 74th loss today. 74 in London. And again, London is 74. English is 74. Gematria is 74. The practice of coding numbers into words. Occult 74. This is Jewish knowledge. Jewish is 74. Masonic is 74. Killing, of course, is 74. A pattern we've talked about so many times, especially with rappers. 3 of the first 5 U.S. presidents dead on 7-4. Again, the song Gematria 74, Killing 74, the song Gematria, the killing name. The word stabbing is also 74. This calendar that we're on, the Roman Catholic Church's calendar, the Gregorian calendar, on the 74th day of the year, it's to remember the stabbing of Caesar, the Ides of March, on the 74th day of the year. Again, I don't think this stuff is organic. I don't think it's organic that holiday is 74, which means holy day, and that they made our big holy day for us in the Christian English-speaking part of the world. They made it Christmas Day, which is a pagan day to worship the sun. And we've been given this story of the Son of God, Jesus, that happens to celebrate his birthday on the pagan day. And of course, this is all the work of the Catholic Church. But again, Jesus is 74, cross, Messiah, gospel. That's the story of Jesus. Jesus speaks in parables, 74. And I mean, it's like, even I just pulling up the Wikipedia here. I mean, look at what they got to put on the Wikipedia page. The guy who they have up today is an American football wide receiver for the Minnesota Vikings. He played college football at Minnesota State. So he's all Minnesota, right? And signed with the Vikings as an undrafted free agent in 2013. So this is the all-American dream. He holds several NFL records, including 8 straight games over 100-plus yards receiving and 74 receptions in the first half of a season. So that's a record 74. And again, the NFL that had its first Super Bowl in the 47th season. And remember, modern Freemasonry created in London, England on June 24th, 1717, a date with 47 numerology. Also a date with 64 numerology, which is like the 64 spaces on the chessboard. And again, the Masonic symbolism, the chessboard floors, the checkered pattern. But yeah, anyway, great job, community. At the beginning of the stream, I was maybe a hair more towards the Vikings, but after hearing the 320 thing that the caller brought in, and then Itachi's point about the Queen in 320, and then Lane coming in with why Alexander Madison should score a touchdown, man. But again, just the 102nd pick on 10-2 as well, and this is a theme we've been talking about over and over, and yeah. So anyhow, congrats to the winners. Great thoughts. I see the Seahawks are up on the Lions at halftime. Again, it's funny they're up with 24. We talked about how that's the number that connects both teams yesterday, and how you'll see when these teams have the overlap in the most pure cipher. Look at this, you guys. Seahawks are up with 24 at halftime, right? Seahawks is 24, Lions is 24. Again, that's why when you learn this knowledge, again, that's why the people stay loyal to me, you guys. Because if you've been just in all the live streams of the sports, the numbers we talk about before the game, sometimes we're wrong about the outcome, but the numbers are still there. I wasn't crazy about the Lions Seahawks game today. Pete Carroll can stay on 83 losses. Again, Detroit, Michigan, 83 on the 83rd Meridian football, 83. There were some clues there, but one of the other things is I said if the London, England 131 thing is important today, Pete Carroll can get his 131st win with the Seahawks today. And the last time Pete Carroll played in England, it was at, what is it? Is it Wembley Stadium? Let me see. Wembley Stadium. Let me see what that is in reverse. Yeah, it's 206 in reverse. So the last time Pete Carroll had a UK game, he beat the Raiders in that game. And the Seahawks and the Raiders used to be in the same division back when the Seahawks were in the AFC. But that game at Wembley, Seattle's the 206 area code. That game was 206 weeks after the last meeting of the Raiders and the Seahawks. And God, I forget what win number. Carroll got like the perfect win number too. He might have even got like his 172nd win or something. I forget that part. But it was just so obvious that the Seahawks would win that game. It was just like clear as day. And again, the Seahawks and Vikings have had some weird mirror-like moments in recent football history too. So maybe there's something going on between those two teams. But Pete Carroll, he was just the only coach that had the London numbers today. And by the way, for those of you guys who said, well, London is 74 in Carr, or not Carr, but Dalton did get his 74th loss today. At the same time, Kirk Cousins, who was considered the away quarterback, he got his 25th road win today. And by the Saints losing, they became 8-8 at home versus the Vikings all time. So again, that's how the multiple ciphers can play out. Dalton gets 74th loss in the London game. Saints fall to 8-8 at home versus the Vikings because they were considered the home team. And Cousins gets his 25th road win. Plus all the Queen stuff. And that's why I always say, learning this knowledge and being aware of it, again, I mean, it's one of two things. Either it's being manipulated, as the theory's been for a long time, or it's what some of the critics say, that all of this is like sorcery and witchcraft, and it's just the way the world's being controlled right now. But even if that's true, that means there's some sorcerer, there's some witch that needs to be made aware of and stopped. Because we shouldn't be living in a world where we're constantly being manipulated and tricked and our energies being siphoned. Again, coming back to that most simple cipher, all those 74s, religion, history, holiday, all that stuff, again, energy is 74. Think about how they scare people with weapons. Weapons 74, nuclear 74, the World Trade Center's on the 74th meridian, the huge earthquake in Southern California on 7-4 on the military base, again on the China Lake military base that was exactly 201 days before coronavirus was confirmed in the U.S. from China, right before the Event 201 simulation. And then in California, where the first state to lock down. But energy, everything is energy, manipulating people's energy in stadiums, through screens across the world. It's like all of this is energy manipulation. Again, if you've never seen that kids movie, Monsters, Inc., that came out right after 9/11, it's about monsters manipulating people because they need that fear energy. Is it monsters? Is it spirits? Is it people who've gone mad? Like evil geniuses? Again, we're only going to get the answers to these things people are fighting over by more people researching and paying attention. That's why knowledge has to spread. Again, I don't recommend anyone start using this knowledge to try and improve their life position, because then you're entering into the world of magic, which is again said to be a dangerous thing. And I respect that, because again, I always thought magic was just for movies and kids stuff, like so many of us were trained to believe. But it does seem that there is something real to at least ritual magic that seems to pull the wool over a lot of people's eyes. And again, just remember that magic has that magic number 33, which is the number that resonates with the person. 33 bones in the human vertebrae. Again, remember what they did to us on 9/11. They got us all afraid. But again, the phrase false flag is 33, like pirate. And that terminology comes from a pirate. And the Knights Templar became pirates, and Knights Templars are part of modern day Freemasonry. There has to be someone of the Knight Templar Masonic order to be present to open a new lodge. But anyway, Masonry's 33, Secrecy's 33, Order's 33, Federal's 33. Again, People's 33. So was the word person, 33 bones in the human vertebrae. Masonry's into 33 because of Kundalini, about spiritual ascension up the spine, up the vertebrae. And, of course, Sweet Lady is 33, which people just have to point out in every video, like the ultimate troll campaign. And again, I'm sure that a lot of people have called their significant other a sweet lady, just inspired alone by Tyrese's song from the 90s. So, again, people leave comments like, well, sweet lady equals 33, so maybe you're a Mason. Well, by your logic, you're a person, so you're automatically a Mason too. That's why you got to be not silly with the knowledge. You got to be rational with the knowledge. So anyway, um, and don't forget society is another 33 word, right? That's how they want to organize us by a code, a frequency, a vibration that's based in fear and comply or else. It's all fear based. We'll throw you in a cage. You know, we'll fine you to death. All the different mechanisms government has. We'll kill you. We'll claim eminent domain and take away all your property. So anyway, congrats to the winners. The score of being 53 points, remember, 53 in the most pure cipher, big football number, football number. Gematria, the practice of coding numbers into words, means geometry in language. Sacred geometry. The most important shape is said to be the Vesica Pisces, and it looks like a football. And again, you think of the NFL, 53-man roster, 53 and a third yard wide field. A lot of rituals with 53. 53 is the 16th prime number. Remember, there are only 16 points scored in Super Bowl 53. And again, there's only 3 teams with a connection to 53. Los Angeles is 53. You have to run it in reverse to see any of them. Los Angeles is 53. Patriots is 53. That's what Super Bowl 53 was. Remember that year we had what day Boston would beat LA in the World Series 4-1, 99 days before the 99th NFL season would conclude, and Tom Brady would win the Super Bowl at age 41, Boston over LA. And where Patriots is 53 and so is Los Angeles. The only other team that has a 53 connection is Carolina, and it obviously wasn't that team that year. But notice where Boston Red Sox fit in. Again, running it forwards, Boston Red Sox is 53. So that's how we saw that was. I mean, it made sense for them to win 4-1 the series, because Super Bowl's 41, always a big number at the Super Bowl. And then Brady was 41 years old that year. This year, how did the season begin? 41 points scored in the game, right? Defending Super Bowl champion, losing to Buffalo. And again, Buffalo and LA, who had the shootings synced up with the season opener. But yeah, 53 points. That's a big one. And again, the storyline was the 61-yard missed double doink attempt. It's funny that the clip down here is 16 seconds, right? 53, the 16th prime. And then 19 seconds down here. Again, Queen is 19. Saints is 19. And again, Minnesota, part of the Twin Cities. The other one is St. Paul. All roads lead to Rome. Rome, royalty. There's so much more to understand just about like the I mean, there's so much more we could get advanced with this stuff. Just understanding vibration and just the sounds the words make. All this stuff that they encoded in this language is clever, and it's all based on those hermetic teachings. There's a vibration to everything. That vibration has an influence. You're either the person being influenced or you're the person doing the influencing. So think about it, you guys. If we live in a world where there's all this occult knowledge that's real about the real power of these numbers in these rituals, and these people hold access to this knowledge, they have it. Again, knowledge is light, not having it is darkness. So the Illuminati in the light, the people in the dark. Again, all I have to say is all the people that work against us, you're just trying to like keep people in the dark, and that is wrong. That is wrong. But again, I do think that maybe studying this subject, you know, again because it is magic related, it's possible it comes with some unintended consequences. Ever since I started studying this, there's been a lot more chaotic stuff in my life, but I still feel the need to continue to put out the information because it reveals so much evil. So again, ultimately, that's the point of these videos, to get people to understand that there is real evil, there is real ritual. There's a reason they taught us, at least when I was growing up in school, about the ancient Mayan civilizations that would have big sports games and sacrifice people, and it was just seen as normal. Again, year after year, these suspicious deaths. Dwayne Haskins just walking in the freeway, hit by a dump truck, really? On the 99th day of the year, just so happens the college championships on the 99th day of the Ohio State quarterback's age. A year to the day earlier, Queen Elizabeth's husband died at age 99 on the 99th day of the year. Then Charles, his son, gives his first speech as king on 9/9, a day after his mom's death. And his mom's birth name equals 99 in Gematria. So yeah, I think I hit all the main points I really wanted to get in there. But yeah, for people who are more curious about how we break down the sports games, again, we always try to look at both sides and evaluate what the right decision is. This Vikings at Saints game. So, um, the head to head is never the most reliable area, but we're looking at potential patterns in there. The quarterback stats are typically the best, but God, it seems like this year the coach stuff is really mattering more than I've seen it in any season. And again, Cousins, the big thing was him coming in with 62, and also how Dalton could pick up the numbers if he lost. They went with London, England. This is the London, England game. And the coach of the Vikings being there on his right day, whereas the Saints coach, it didn't have as good of alignment. And then again, the fact that the Saints did pick up, we were projecting that it made a lot of sense for them to pick up the 320th loss in Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, which again equals 320 in the most simple cipher. And that's where you want it to equate those two ciphers on the left. But then also how Itachi pointed out that the queen numbers were in favor of Cousins. And it never dawned on me before. Again, outside of the base ciphers, the cipher you want to know is Jewish. And again, even queen is 320. Again, the queen dies the day the season opens. The Queen City Buffalo wins the day she dies on the season opener. The last Super Bowl originally scheduled for the day her father died in history. And again, that date can be written 6-2. Cousins gets that 62nd regular season win today after coming in 62 and 62 all time. Again, as the Saints get their 320th loss versus the NFC. And again, the media features number 19, who's born on the perfect day. And again, Charles is 73 right now. So we covered it all. I do want to remind one more thing about, just since 131 in sports. Remember this: Huey P. Newton in gematria equals 131. He died in history on August 22nd, the day leaving 131 days left in the year. Again, we were talking about this with the Vikings number 19, how that's his birthday, the All-American story. In the most pure cipher, remember, Huey P. Newton equals 58. And this is how we projected Super Bowl 50 correctly in October, why Cam Newton would lose to Peyton Manning and Von Miller, number 58, would be the Super Bowl MVP. Exactly dead on. And again, Cam Newton was born on the 131st day of the year in 1989, the year that Huey P. Newton died, on the day leaving 131 days left in the year. And I didn't know this reverse piece when I made this prediction, but after we learned reverse, this just made so much more sense to me. I was like, oh my God, look at that. But anyhow, Huey P. Newton, you see how his name's 131 and 41? Super Bowl is 131 and 41, right? So Cam Newton plays for the Carolina Black Panthers. Huey P. Newton is the founder of the Black Panther Party, which had its original meetings in San Francisco, where it was founded, in Catholic churches. Again, all roads lead to Rome. And San Francisco has that gematria 50 and 122, just like Satanic does. And the Satanic Church was founded there, and it's on the 122nd meridian. But again, Super Bowl 50 was the Carolina Panther losing to the white Denver Bronco Super Bowl, and O.J. Simpson, race relations, his white Bronco chase, California. So, anyhow, Huey P. Newton, he died all those years in advance. And again, that to me, I don't think that's organic. I think that's the way it is. He got to be a big name on the scene. You know, he got fame and probably some fortune from being in the Black Panther Party. And again, just the coding of the same numbers by this gang on their operations throughout history. Black Panther Party has that big fat 74 on it. Also 191 in the same cipher as Society of Jesus, 97 like Roman Catholicism, and I don't know if there's something with 268, but again, their original meetings were in the Catholic Church, and black. You see how Society of Jesus is 56 191. Again, Black Lives Matter in the most pure cipher 56. Black Lives Matter, Black Panther Party, creating movements that are addressing real societal problems, but then really ultimately just bringing more division and friction into humanity and making the problem worse. And again, there's things to say about all these numbers up here for Black Lives Matter. So, but just for now, just the historical connections, all roads lead into Rome. All the manipulation. Part of the reason we saw Super Bowl 50 is because it was all about the racially charged shootings in the news and the hands up, don't shoot that was going on that year. So we were talking about how. Actually, no, that was the next Super Bowl. They did put out the O.J. Simpson TV show remake with Cuba Gooding Jr. right before the white Broncos lost or defeated the Black Panthers. And yeah, in case I didn't make it clear, again, Cam Newton, you can look it up. Count all the quarterbacks to ever start in a Super Bowl. Cam Newton became the 58th quarterback to start in a Super Bowl, and he faced Peyton Manning, who'd already been in a Super Bowl, so he didn't up the count. Cam Newton, the 58th QB to start in a Super Bowl, and that's why we liked Von Miller, number 58, drafted one pick after Cam Newton to be the MVP. We knew it was going to be a defensive game. Peyton Manning was throwing wounded ducks all season. If you don't know what a wounded duck is, it means you can't throw the ball anymore. But that's how scripted the NFL was, and people still didn't see through it. He couldn't throw a tight spiral. All his stuff was short. Real ugly season. Defensive game every game for the Broncos. And again, people not seeing through the National Fix League. But yeah, go look it up. Cam Newton born on the 131st day of the year. Huey P. Newton dead on the day, leaving 131 days left in the year in the same year. Years later, Huey, and again, I didn't know reverse when we made the prediction, but it just makes even more sense, right? It's just like, God, that was like a planned, scripted NFL ritual. It just makes sense, though. All these things, all these years, all these news story sports, they're the things that hold the minds of the masses at all time. People are focused on doing their slave job, going to slave school, getting a slave slip to get a better slave job, and all caught up in the same news stories and sports the whole time. All of us going through the same thing the whole time. And it's like they got us on a conveyor belt. So, all right, I'm going to leave it there for now. But yeah, I want to get out there. Congrats to the winners. Great job, community, on the additional research for this game. And again, Lane reminded you how simple it could be. He liked number 2 because he had a nice big payout, a lot of value to get a touchdown on the second. And I don't know if Lane, I missed it in his call. Maybe he meant to say it, or maybe I have to go back and listen. Maybe he did say it, but the fact this guy was the 102nd pick of the draft on 10-2, I'm telling you, that stuff's not an accident. Just like how Meghan Markle's in the headlines right now with racism. Again, slavery 102. The N word when you run the alphabetic order in reverse is 102. It comes up a lot. The other year with the Ahmaud Arbery killing, which was all synced up with the World Series. Again, it was 102 days after his killing that the headline emerged that the video picked up that he was called the N word. It's like, oh, really? It took him 102 days to notice that. Come on, man. I remember somebody, their channel's not here anymore, but somebody once made a video trying to make me look bad for educating about the way they code 102 and racially charged sports rituals, the symbolism of it. And they said that the real thing was that I was just a schizophrenic and probably racist myself. So just trying to talk about the N word while it's just so annoying that like it's more likely that somebody's going to make a video about you like that, like with this totally false criticism that's proven wrong a million times over. Those videos have been a lot more common than people who are like helping share the work or watching and saying, I really like this, but then offering like a better idea of, well, maybe it's not this, maybe it's this. Again, you just see that humanity really likes to be a lot more negative than positive. And again, I think that's because of who rules over us. Psychopaths. We've been learning from them for all of our lives. So, anyhow, we'll leave it there for now. And till next time, Truth Seeker.